Hi, folks, and welcome to my review of the 2021 Spanish Grand Prix. Another decent Grand Prix to the start of what has been a decent start to the 2021 season, and another battle between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Another win for Lewis Hamilton, although he had to do it the hard way. So again, your top three, and not for the first time I've said this. So Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, and Valtteri Bottas as your top three. But as I said, for Lewis, yes, he did put the car on pole on Saturday, his 100th pole position. Quite phenomenal achievement from Lewis, and you only think now that it's only a matter of time before he gets his 100th win of this season. And 2021 could be a season. Well, you'd like to think it'll be the season where he would have got. Obviously, now he has got his 100th pole position, but in the same year, his 100th win in Formula One, and staggering, really, what Lewis has been able to achieve. His latest win wasn't exactly straightforward. Got past Max Verstappen. Great start from Dutchman at the start of the race, and able to get by Lewis at turn one. Had Lewis not bailed out, then both drivers could so easily have collided. But good driver from both drivers, to be fair. Although Lewis did say that he couldn't see Max as he was in his blind spot, but even so, as I say, had those two collided, then potentially it could have been two DNFs for those two drivers. But it wasn't to be. But even though Max was able to get by in on the opening lap, he wasn't really able to get away from Lewis. And even after the first round of pit stops, they were still quite close. And then really, I think it was the towards the second round of Lewis's second pit stop anyway, which might have come as a bit of a surprise to all of us, but also I'm sure to Red Bull as well. Just as Lewis made his second pit stop, actually he was quite close to getting by Max. I believe the gap was about zero point 0.8 of a second, so he was close by to getting past the Dutchman, but Mercedes decided to bring him in at, for a second stop, and in the end, it definitely paid off. So hats off to the Mercedes strategists. As from a Red Bull perspective, could they have brought Max in earlier to cover off Mercedes and Lewis's second stop? Maybe so, but they just didn't quite have the pace to keep Lewis behind in the end. And although Max was able to get a point for fastest lap in the end, may come as little consolation. But even so, Max did say at the end that he was quite reasonably happy with second place. Look, obviously he would have wanted to have won the race, but still finishing second is not a disastrous result. And as I say, he got the point for the fastest lap as well. But I think Spain, I think that the Spanish track was always going to be a track that would suit the Mercedes more. But even so, still there are still positives that Max can take from the weekend, and yeah, not a bad result for Max, and Lewis just keeps on. I believe if I remember, if I'm right in saying this, I think this is Lewis's best start to a season in Formula One. So it's quite scary to think that if that is the case, then what's he going to be able to achieve for the rest of the season? But even so, another good battle between Lewis and Max, and yeah, just another. I think 17 races, 17 races to go. Actually, quote me up. Don't quote me on that, but I know there's around 17 races to go. But yeah, so plenty more rounds to go between both drivers, and yeah, I think there's a lot more excitement to come in the battles between Lewis and Max. And as for Valtteri Bottas, it wasn't exactly the best of starts to the race on Sunday. Having Charles Leclerc get by, we're coming on to talk about Charles soon, but that didn't really help Valtteri's race. And then obviously once Lewis was on fresher tyres, after he made his second pit stop. And Valtteri, although he was given the orders to let Lewis by, he didn't actually he made it hard for Lewis to get by. But in a way, as a neutral, you want to see Valtteri be that a little bit more aggressive. And I still feel that Valtteri, did a good job considering the circumstances. And he finishing on the podium again is not a bad result for Valtteri, but he'll obviously want to be converting those like second and third place finishes into wins as well. Look, he's definitely stepped up his game in qualifying. Last season we saw that, and this year he's not doing a bad job at all. But he just needs to try and, yeah, I think himself he definitely want to be closer to challenging Max and Lewis, but I think, look, it's still early days yet, and it only takes one or two DNFs for Lewis and Max, although they're a rarity. But like I say, it only takes a couple of DNFs and a couple of wins for Valtteri, and he's back he's in contention for the driver's crown. So look, I think it's, and also talk about replacing Valtteri mid-season. It's unlike Mercedes. You could see that happening at Red Bull, but I think at Mercedes, I don't think they would want to do that. And why would you when Valtteri is doing his job? Obviously, Valtteri would want to be right up there with Lewis and Max and being closer to challenging them in the race. But when you consider Mercedes have won so many constructors titles for the last for so many years on the trot now, Valtteri has more than played his part in helping with that. So I think people need to give Valtteri a break, because I do think he's been harshly treated by some parts of the media. And I think Valtteri, he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done at Mercedes, what he's been able to achieve. He just needs to try and be that little bit more, when he gets the opportunity, be that little bit aggressive but fair. And I think the results will come. I think, I genuinely believe that Valtteri, as I say, he gets a couple of wins under his belt, and if he can get under the skin of Lewis, then you just never know. But even so, like I say, a podium finish for Valtteri at in Spain, again, is not a bad result for the Finn. So I mentioned about Charles Leclerc earlier. Another great drive from Charles, and he obviously was able to get by Valtteri. Great move on Valtteri on the opening lap. He saw the gap, and he went for it. And you know what? Hats off to Charles. Obviously wasn't able to keep Valtteri behind in the end, but he was able to cover off Sergio Perez to take a very good fourth place. And Ferrari are definitely in contention for that third place in the constructors. That's for sure. If they carry on like this, then they're going to be with a real shot at finishing third. Look, Ferrari. They obviously want more, but after what they went through last season, and you think about what they've been able to achieve so far this year, they've definitely made a massive step up, and things are definitely improving on the right direction for Ferrari. And Charles is, look, no, he obviously the results weren't, obviously Ferrari had a very disappointing year last year, but even so, Charles still drove the wheels off that Ferrari, pulled out some great results, and he's doing it again this year. And I think with a home Grand Prix coming up next time round on the streets of Monaco, Charles will definitely be fired up to want to at least be on the being with a shot of a podium finish, which I think would be a great result for Charles and Ferrari. But yeah, another great drive from Leclerc, and yeah, I think he and the team can be very satisfied with the start that they've made this season. So come on to Sergio Perez, who finished in fifth. Look, I'm sure Checo would definitely want to be finishing higher than fifth, but starting a new team, it's going to take him time to adapt to a new team. And when you consider first four races, two fifth place finishes, one fourth place finish, it's actually not been a bad start to life for Red Bull for Checo. Obviously, he'll want more. He'll want to achieve more. Um, but I thought he did a good job on Sunday. I think qualifying he would have been disappointed, but let's not forget, he wasn't feeling 100%, and apparently he had issues with his shoulder, and uh, seemed to have got worse, so he wasn't feeling great on Saturday. So when you consider that, yes, he only was able to put the car qualify eighth on Saturday, or he was able to finish fifth. I think he did a good job. Obviously, he spent a lot of the race behind Daniel Ricciardo, which kind of hindered his progress. But once he was able to get by, wasn't able to really close the gap to Leclerc. But even so, still more points for Checo, and generally, and he's someone who goes well at Monaco. I remember he finished on the podium for Force India, now known as Aston Martin. So at Monaco, so it's a track that Checo likes, and I think maybe Red Bull. We know that Red Bull generally as well go well at Monaco as well, so perhaps Checo will fancy his chances of picking up a strong result um at, at Monaco. So yeah, obviously not. Obviously, Checo would want to be higher up, but when you consider he qualified eighth and he finished fifth, he went up. So yeah, not a bad result at all for Checo. And then we come on to Daniel Ricciardo. Good weekend for the Aussie. A much better weekend as well, and he was able to beat his teammate Lando Norris this weekend. So now I think that's the first time Ricciardo's beaten Norris in the races this year. So yeah, that will give Daniel some confidence. And qualifying wasn't too bad either. I think he did say that he made a mistake on his final lap in Q3, but even so, not a bad weekend for Daniel Ricciardo, and he's got happy memories. Well, some happy memories anyway of Monaco, having won there with Red Bull. So now I'm sure Daniel will be going into the Monaco Grand Prix in a chirpy mood, and I'm sure all the drivers, obviously, they didn't race at Monaco last year, but knowing that they will be this time round, but also there will be fans as well. So now, I think every single driver will be really looking forward to the weekend in Monaco, which promises to be an absolutely cracking weekend, which we'll come on to talk about Monaco later on. But yeah, not a bad weekend for Dan Ricciardo. And yeah, not exactly the most straightforward of weekends for Lando Norris. But even so, finishing eighth, more points for the Brit, and he continues his fine start to the season. So look, not every weekend is going to be fantastic, but even if you not perform, you're not quite 100%, but you're still picking up points. It can only be a good thing. So yeah, not a bad weekend for McLaren, and Carlos Sainz finishing seventh in his home Grand Prix. Couldn't quite get past Ricciardo in the end, but even so, more points on the board for Ferrari, for Carlos as well. And I have to say, I think Carlos has adapted really well to life at Ferrari from what I've seen. And yeah, I think so far he's done a very good job. He's done a solid job as well. And I think the Ferrari hierarchy, no doubt, impressed with what Carlos has been able to achieve, and the way he's settled in. He just seems to have settled really quickly at Ferrari. So yeah, another good job from Carlos Sainz. Esteban Ocon. So he finished ninth for Alpine. Fantastic qualifying performance from Esteban on Saturday, qualifying fifth. So yeah, cracking job from the Frenchman. Wasn't able to stay then. The pace, no, Alpine just seemed to have lost their pace during the race. I know that from what I heard, Fernando Alonso had engine issues during the race, or towards the end of the race anyway, which meant that he dropped well low down in the order in the end on Sunday. So quite a disappointing end for Fernando at his home race. But Esteban Ocon, another couple more points for Alpine, and I did predict Esteban would be one of the dark horses of this season. I'm still standing by that, and Yeah, I thought even though Esteban was starting to go down the order on Sunday, he still picked up two valuable points, and those points could be valuable come the end of the season. So yeah, a really um, not a bad result in the end for Esteban, although I'm sure he would have wanted more considering that he qualified fifth on Saturday. And then the final point scorer, Pierre Gasly, wasn't exactly the best of starts to Sunday's race for the Frenchman, having well, seems to have overshot his starting position, starting box on race day, which resulted then in him having a 5 second penalty. But even so, despite that, we saw some good battles, particularly the Aston Martin drivers that Pierre had pulled off some really good moves on both Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel. But yeah, another a good point for Pierre Gasly, another points finish, and yeah, continues to do a very good job for AlphaTauri. Bit of another difficult weekend for his younger teammate Yuki Tsunoda. So I know he had engine issues, which meant that he had to retire on Sunday. But that's all part of the learning for Yuki. Obviously, had a great start to the season, finishing in the points in Bahrain, but he hasn't really. It's been difficult, shall we say, for the Japanese driver ever since then. But as a rookie, you're gonna have those weekends where you have your disappointing weekends, but you're also gonna have your great weekends as well. And he's still a very young lad, and he's going to take time for him to still adapt to life as a Formula One driver. But even so, I think Yuki's not done a bad job. Just needs to just needs to mature. But that will come. That will definitely come. And I know that Red Bull hierarchy really rate him. So yeah, just give Yuki time, and I'm sure no doubt that he will see the best of him this year. But it's just going to take a little bit more time, I think. So, but yeah, so not a bad Spanish Grand Prix, and then you know as many joys as there were, so another disappointing weekend for Aston Martin, a weekend where they did have upgrades, but they didn't quite able to materialise. Obviously, the circuit itself in Spain, Barcelona, is a very difficult track to overtake on. But even so, I think Aston Martin will be disappointed with the fact that they didn't score at least a couple of points. But yeah, at the moment, they're a long way off Ferrari and McLaren in the constructors, and if they're serious about challenging for third in the constructors, then they need to got to get the skates on really. But I'm sure things will turn around for Aston Martin. Obviously now that they have got the finances now to do it, so to turn things around. So I think you just got to give them time. You just got to give them time. Obviously the rules have not exactly been in their favour. So they've had a bit more difficulty in adapting to the new rules for this year. But yeah, I think Aston Martin would have expected a little bit more this season. But it's not about how you start the season; it's where you end up at the season. So we'll see where they are come the end of the season, and maybe this difficult start will actually we'll actually see things start to turn around, and then we'll start to see the fruition of Aston Martin's hard work. So yeah, and then George Russell, just a final point on George Russell, just yeah, another good qualifying session from Mr. Saturday. And he was actually pretty close to scoring points. He was definitely in contention to score at least a one or a couple of points. Just wasn't able to make the strategy work in the end. But even so, I think there are a lot of positives that George Williams can take from the weekend, and they're definitely challenging the midfield teams, that's for sure. And I think that will give them heart going into the rest of the season. So I think there's a lot of positives that George and Williams can take from the weekend. So that's the end of my review of the Spanish Grand Prix. And then in a couple of weeks' time, we head to the streets of Monaco, the one that they all want to win. And I'm really looking forward to the Monaco Grand Prix. Bit of rain would definitely spice things up. So it'll be interesting to see. Well, so it'll be intriguing to see whether that happens or not. But like I said earlier, now knowing that there will be fans there as well, I think the drivers will definitely enjoy that. And yeah, just great to be back at Monaco after not being there last year. So that's the end of my review. And if you want to talk things Formula One, you can message me. I'm on Twitter at Baggies20, and I'm also on Instagram, Manish Patel89. So enjoy the rest of the weekend, and I will catch up with you in a couple of weeks' time for my preview of the Monaco Grand Prix. Take care, everyone.